Welcome to Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics, where we talk about some complex spiritual and metaphysical types of subjects. And tonight, I want to talk about the one subject that terrifies me the most in this field, which is spiritual moral relativism. And it's a big can of worms. I've talked about it in past videos, but I'll bring it up again because I recently had a debate with an admin of a near-death experience related group, and these ideas reared their head again, and so I really wanted to pick them apart a little bit and hopefully, have a solid rebuttal to these ideas. So yeah, let's dive into it. Before we begin, as you know, I need the subscribers because, as I spoke about in the previous video, I'm swimming upstream against this kind of like new era of YouTube where it's 10 times more difficult to get an organic audience, to get ideas out there, basically regardless of who you are, regardless of your production value or even the niche you're in. It's suddenly very, very difficult to get a organic subscriber base from YouTube itself. So if you found this video off of YouTube, and if you like these types of subjects, these types of debates and discussions, I would invite you to please hit the subscribe button, like it, share it, hit the notification bell, and that will increase the chances that I'll keep the channel going. Because probably in a few months, unless I see some steady growth happening, then I'm probably going to cut off of YouTube and switch to a different platform. So, definitely need your help with that. To continue, spiritual moral relativism is basically it's a transition from a belief in, let's say, materialist atheism. There is no afterlife. When we die, we're just carcasses being devoured by worms. This is their very pleasant belief system, which is rebutted by afterlife science and experience and so many different areas, which I talk about in my books, on this channel, whatnot. But then you're going into another extreme where we have religion on one hand that basically condemns people who ate pork or, I don't know, committed some sin to eternity in hellfire. Not announcing that you're saved by Jesus Christ. Obviously, this is a horrific belief system that has permeated in society, the idea that someone's condemned to hell because they didn't say, I'm saved by Jesus. And of course, people the world over rebel against this idea and move toward atheism. But then there's this other extreme, which is, instead of saying that there is no such thing as a negative type of place that we go to when we die, everybody goes to a heavenly bliss environment regardless of anything to do with their actions, choices, and decisions as individuals. Now, when we go into spirituality, spiritualism, afterlife science, we know from numerous sources that this is not true. Things that date back literally hundreds of years, thousands of years. We can go as far back at least to like Emanuel Swedenborg's writings, on through everything into modern day with out-of-body experiences and even near-death experiences. And yet there is this growing subculture of people who will say, not to keep reusing this kind of cliche argument, but Hitler goes to heaven. So this subject came up again in relation to karma. So I posted a video a few videos back about karma and how ultimately the point with karma is that we are responsible for our own actions. So if you choose to do something cruel and horrible to other people, this has a reverberation effect on the cosmos. And so you're not just harming that other person, you're harming yourself too. And one way or another, you're going to feel that effect. And people who study the afterlife, who have out-of-body experiences, people like yours truly, we're very aware of this because we see that these other dimensions that we basically cross into when we die, that so many people are in contact with, so many people experience, the nature of these dimensions depends a lot on your personal characteristics, your personal psychology. And if somebody is really in a dark state of mind and aggressive, angry, depressed, immoral, and as they say in the law of one, a path of service to self versus being of service to others, not being able to recognize love and unity among other people, they end up in a very closed off, negative, and dark existence that mirrors what's in their hearts. And this is consistently reported, and it makes a damn lot of sense because it just shows you that we are responsible for our actions, and this is probably the thing that religions were trying to convey, and that were completely misinterpreted over so many centuries. So now, suddenly, in the beginning of probably in the 90s on through today, there's been this new movement of no, it's all flowers and sunshine, and there's no such thing as negative consequences. So you can be a school shooter, walk into a school, kill 20 kids, then kill yourself, and you're in bliss heaven, eternity, forever. And to doubt this means that you're some jerk who wants to punish people. And so me posting a video about karma and interpretations of it, I was branded as somebody who is just wants to punish people. And I've heard this argument before, and it's utterly ridiculous because in addition, I noticed that these people, they will lash out at me just for presenting information or ideas. They'll say like, "Why are you trying to punish people? Why are you such a angry, nasty person to be able to present these ideas to our little safe space that believes that we have no personal responsibility for anything that we do in life?" And obviously this is a very appealing philosophy because it sure is nice to know that after you, I don't know, let's say, did a fraudulent lawsuit and steamrolled somebody in a company and stole a bunch of money from somebody and committed various immoral actions your whole life, or who knows what else, all those things that you might feel guilt about, guess what? It all gets to just magically wash away when you die, and we all get to join permanent bliss and happiness. And so I'm going to read off, this is the response that this lady made to a post. And it goes, "Cyrus, the need for punishment is part of our human condition on Earth. There are consequences on this plane for, quote, shooting up a school and for people like Hitler, but not in the afterlife." Oh, that's just great, isn't it? So, again, complete moral relativism. Hitler, for instance, suffered from mental illness. Mental illness is actually a physical disease. Look, well, we don't know that. We know that he had, obviously, he had a few screws loose, but he consciously made decisions that hurt many, 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 many people, millions of people. I think that goes without saying. In a court of law, Hitler wouldn't have survived the Nuremberg trials if he had lived. Some conspiracy theorists say that he did live and that he was in South America, but I won't go there. He wouldn't have gotten through the Nuremberg trials under a defense of mental illness. Just because somebody is in an aggravated, selfish, psychological state, it does not mean that it is mental illness so much as they have veered into a very dark path willingly and have allowed that energy to propagate. So it's still about free will, and that's what karma is about. It's about free will. So right away, this argument doesn't fly, and I'd say it's an insult, to however many people are still alive who survived like the Holocaust. Should we punish all people with mental or physical illness? What about people with cancer? Well, what an absurd statement. We're talking about killers, Hitler, school shooters, and now this lady is turning that around to say punishing people with cancer. What does that even mean? Should we punish all people with mental or physical illness? Well, again, this is a dividing point. If somebody really did kill somebody because of a mental physical illness, then I think it's safe to say that no, that wouldn't be carrying over into a post-corporeal existence necessarily, although we don't know for sure. Maybe it could. But no one's talking about punishment. Okay, it's not somebody else delivering out punishment. It's the concept that your own actions have effect that you've placed upon yourself. The only person doing the punishment is yourself. And hiding from this fact is not going to save you from it. You will never be able to save yourself from cosmic guilt of your actions that you've taken. You have to work these things out yourself. It's a kind of cosmic system. We hear about this in all the great spiritual teachers, whether that is like Silver Birch or even like the Seth books, like everywhere they talk about it. So where does this idea come from? That you don't have consequences. Should we judge and punish them for getting ill as well? Again, what a straw man! Just absolutely rubbish. Once we leave our bodies, the frailties of our past human condition is removed, and we are again our authentic selves. I agree with this, so you're part of the way there. This is true. But that doesn't mean that every action somebody commits is because of some kind of mental illness that it has nothing to do with their own free will and choices. That basically you're making the argument that somebody who cuts you off of the road and flips you the finger for no reason because they feel like being mean that day has a mental illness. I'd say it's somebody caught up in an aggressive negative vibration that they're doing it out of choice. I can only imagine what someone like Hitler must have endured after his body died away. Yeah, good point. You're contradicting yourself. He probably was not in a good state of mind at all. What mediums have told me about Hitler is that there's this big realm filled with Nazis who are still supporting Hitler, and Hitler is in a kind of self-imposed exile where he believes still strongly clinging to what he did on this realm as a way to justify his horrible actions, and he still is surrounded by these thousands or millions of loyalists, but it's this little enclosed astral condition that isn't really, doesn't have, well, I won't even say doesn't have influence, because I think the astral does have influence, and for all we know, they're still operating on that side, trying to influence us in a negative way. But I believe rather that Hitler is not in a great condition, that Hitler is still being Hitler, and is in a pretty dark realm. And yes, in my opinion, we all return home to heavenly bliss. And this is where we just straight go into Bullshitville. This idea that, again, first of all, we're going into the territory that the afterlife is this mono-existence where you just float around in heavenly bliss forever and no one is progressing, doing things, or having alternating perspectives, opinions, beliefs, ideas, or feelings. It's kind of like that old 90s film called Brain Candy by Kids in the Hall, where there was this pharmaceutical pill that removes negative emotions. So it basically creates like a post-apocalyptic scenario. Funny old film. The old Kids in the Hall cast, pretty popular show back when I was a kid. But it's the same idea. So, and it's also a cousin of like the issue of spiritual bypassing, which is the psychological term for people who are afraid of negative emotions. And because they're afraid of negative emotions, they put themselves in this positivity bubble where they just pretend bad stuff doesn't exist. And really what it does, kind of like I talked about in the ego video a few videos back, thinking that you don't have an ego really just means you're hiding from an ego that you will never lose, because so long as you're an individual with an individual existence, you're going to be operating individually. That's not entirely based on unity, or else you wouldn't be an individual, you wouldn't exist. So it's a conundrum. So spiritual bypassing basically results in people becoming really passive-aggressive or hiding from things in life and causing a lot of psychological issues. So what people like this lady have done is they've projected the spiritual bypassing idea onto their interpretation of heaven, believing that negative emotions do not and cannot exist, and we're just floating around in peace and harmony while denying these elements of our souls. And this is all based upon this lady's, I assume, her own near-death experience, where she was given this information. We see this happening often. I have a few theories about this. The main theory is that it's a misinterpretation. So there is a perception of there not being negative emotions and being a very, very blissful existence on the higher astral planes, because when you get there, for the most part, the residences of these higher conditions have done the work. They've gone through the fire, so to speak, to get to a point where they're all very spiritually sophisticated people. and as such, they're able to co-create a very heavenly type of realm on this kind of astral condition. And so, as a result of that, there is not negative emotion there in the same way that if you get like 10 people who are like spiritually enlightened and loving and peaceful in a room together, there will not be negative emotions in that room because they're all operating on this higher vibration scale. But that does not mean that negative emotions do not exist. It just means that you're in an environment where it's not there. It doesn't mean it can't come up, or crop up, or doesn't happen outside of that condition. What this woman is making this woman is making the absurd notion that somebody who is not of that level automatically becomes at that level by nature of dying, which we know is not true, and it's a dangerous philosophy, because it would mean that if you're planning to shoot up a school, all you gotta do is read this new age bullshit, and then you'll find out, oh, you know what, I can kill all my classmates and then kill myself, and I'll actually be rewarded for it. I'll get to die and be in this heavenly bliss state that some near-death author person talked about. Wonderful. I'm going to go buy myself one of those easy access automatic firearms at a gun show where they don't even ask for my ID, and I can just go in there, buy one, and go shoot up my school. Fantastic. Anybody who doesn't see how dangerous this philosophy is just completely out of touch. This is my response, and in retrospect, I could have really gripped into this on other levels about like the cancer patient straw man and other elements I just spoke on, but this is what I said. First of all, I'm going to heartily disagree with you. I have not had a near-death experience, at least not a conventional one, but please consider my area. I'm in close connection to many deceased people, including both my parents and a brother who crossed over, all of them confirming the same things you've experienced, like the life review, etc., as things they experienced after their deaths. But at the end of the day, they ended up in what we call the astral condition. Through out-of-body experiences, I've been to that side not once, but hundreds of times, and it's the main subject of 2 of my books. People's psychological makeup is directly carried onward and ends up manifesting into the realms they inhabit on that side. This is confirmed not only by me, but many other mediums and out-of-body explorers like Jürgen Ziwe, among others. I'd say Bullman is in there as well. Jürgen, who is perhaps one of the greatest out-of-body explorers alive, who has seen negative dark realms through his guide and chronicled them in books like Multidimensional Man and Vistas of Infinity. His opinion is the moral relativism that you present, that all people who die are immediately angels and return to a state of heavenly bliss no matter what their actions are, is utterly wrong and dangerous, as it would mean people could commit horrific crimes in this world and there would be no consequences. It's absurd for you to claim this is me wanting to punish people. Let's see, where am I at? It's not like that. It's the universal principle of cause and effect as outlined by great spiritual teachers from the other side, like Silver Birch, and other sources of wisdom who have much greater knowledge on that side than one person's near-death experience. As a result, people cross over and have taken with them their selfish attitudes and thoughts, and yes, they can be helped, but they must ultimately help themselves, which is a long process that requires a great amount of work and assistance from others, and the conditions the worst of the lot find themselves in is far from eternal bliss and cherubs on clouds strumming harps. These are horrific and nightmarish realms that people have created. It's the polar opposite of the upper realms you may have briefly experienced. If you don't believe me, get in touch with your guides, ask to be shown the negative astral planes. I think I'll believe endless amounts of literature about this subject than this relatively new phenomenon of moral relativism that I see in these near-death accounts. The reason I greatly disrespect this opinion is because it's fake spirituality. It teaches to would-be killers, rapists, school shooters that they can go ahead and commit their crimes with no consequences because we all just go to heaven. This is a fake and dangerous teaching. And the response I got to this was basically allow me to illustrate. La 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 la. That's the response. That's the response I usually get when I challenge this idea, because I'm willing to bet the people who really promote this idea, they're guilty of some crap in their lives. They've done some bad things to other people, and they're basically clinging to the idea that they get off scot-free, and when they die, it's just going to be pure love and bliss and harmony. That it's a clean slate no matter what. I have bad news for you. That ain't going to happen. Okay? But if you want that, something close to that, then change your life right now. Start doing good things for other people. If you're using this philosophy as a way to justify continued dark actions against other people, then you have to stop immediately. Recognize that you're misguided. Recognize that you may even be receiving influence from negative astral entities who want you to believe this. And go on a path of being of service to other people and having loving thoughts about other people. And do that quickly, and karmatically you can work on those things right now. If you've ripped people off, then donate to people who are poor. Do things to counterbalance that energy that you've placed upon yourself. And by doing these things, you're making the world a better place, and you're making sure that you'll be in better conditions when you cross over. Now, if this lady had been to this like upper astral during a near-death experience, then okay, maybe she's okay. Maybe she hasn't done anything bad. But I don't know. I mean, the thing about near-death experience is that they're such a temporary thing. I mean, you can. One thing we've learned in this subject is it's possible, like even through a substance like, I don't know, like DMT, to temporarily visit realms that you're not compatible to. It's possible for guides to take people into places that their soul and spirit wouldn't normally be able to travel into. That's also why this is so unreliable. Somebody who is in a darker state of mind, who has negative energies attached to them, could be taken by a guide into a higher astral spectrum, but when that guide's influence fades, they end up where they're supposed to be, which could be the astral earth, the astral spectrum of the universe, worlds very similar to this one, or someplace very dark. We don't know. And so this narrow-mindedness, this New Ageism, it has to be resisted. Share this video if you think this is a message that you want to get out to people. Of course, like it. Visit afterlifetopics.com. You can check out my books. You can join the Afterlife Topics Facebook group. You can get involved. You can become a patron to support this channel and what I talk about by becoming a student. That's $30 a month, and you get access to tons of archived classes about complex subjects. You can join in on the classes, participate, have one-on-one time with me if you want. That's the afterlifetopics.com/university. Thanks for tuning in. Stay away from the spiritual moral relativism because it is completely a deception. I'll talk to you next time.